got to always ask yourself, what's next on the table? This happened, but move on to the next thing. And that's what makes the wins later on taste so much sweeter, because, it didn't always go so well, every single shoot.
Exactly.
I guess always have a positive mindset.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Miguel Sierra, who is a videographer and editor. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Man, like I was saying before the podcast, it's a true honor. Tyler Seller, our mutual friend, speaks very highly of you. It's just amazing to see how you have a mutual association, not just with him, but Michael Gilbert, who's a prominent photographer and videographer in the music and content creation industry as much as him. So it's really cool to be involved and see their inner circle and see the creatives that are unseen sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of us are underground, we're not mainstream obviously, but we're on the come up. And I think it's just so special to have a platform to share our journeys and experiences.
Yeah, man, this is really sick. I really love listening to your podcast. I listened to the Michael Gilbert one and also the Tyler one.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, the shorts they're really nice. Do you edit them to yourself?
Yeah, the YouTube shorts you're saying, like the ones that are coming out with the reels,
yeah.
like the podcast.
Yeah, and you make the text pop and everything. You do the whole.
Yeah. Even with the images come in, I even had a sound effects of a photo, sound effect that comes in with the clicking. So I'm glad that means a lot to me. Actually, that's something that's new, a new strategy that I've been implementing in the beginning of the year. You got to put out content, as Gary says, Gary V, shout out. But I really appreciate this. That was my whole intention of starting the podcast, is to bring on creatives like yourself, discuss their journeys, really share, an insight on people for the audience, right? Whether we're in this industry or we have an interest, maybe you could be that defining moment, that kind of push for someone that's maybe having a dark day because they can't get creative content out, or maybe they're thinking of quitting their job to pursue creative industry and they're not sure what to do, and you could be that voice of reason for them, right? So I really appreciate that, man.
For sure.
Yeah, man. So like I said, as we exchange conversation over social media, because you and I connected over Instagram, you reached out to me, and by the way, that was a true honor again. Not to flatter you immensely, but this podcast, I was even explaining to my friend Tyler, I never really had that many people kind of reach out. It was always kind of me connecting with creatives, which is fine. That's how you do it. But it just shows the impact it's had, we were able to connect on something we mutually enjoy. And, just connecting back and forth. I noticed your online profile, you also possess a talent for videography and editing, video production, things like that. And I was told by Tyler, I was informed, getting some background information from yourself, because again, you guys are closer, to be able to make this a full-time job. I heard you left school to pursue this dream. And as creatives, we love to use the term hustler, right? And that's something how he kind of introduced me to you as, is someone that is a self-starter, went for it. You know what I mean? Dropped everything that was conventional and said, I'm going to do something that's different. So whether it was sneaking into shows, messaging every person you can get a hold of, what is a great way that term was applied to get to where you are today, being a hustler, being a self-starter?
I think number one, for any videographer, creative, or anybody that wants to just do something more, right? You can just DM anybody. You could DM 10 people a day.
Yeah.
Happen from a DM.
Yeah.
The job that I have with the YouTuber Tommy G is from a DM.
Yeah.
It's just, wake up every day, hit, DM Lil Baby all the way to your local artist. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who it is. You never know who it is. Send it to his manager, send it to his DJ, send it to his cousin, whoever the fuck is in his photos.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you hustle. You find your clients. You don't go on Fiverr. You don't wait for them to come to you. You go to them and you say I want this. And that's how you get the clientele that you can, pursue your passion and really get a clientele going.
Yeah, and establish the network, the foundation. I love that you said that, because I kind of learned the hard way. When I was first starting the 94 Productions, my business, a few years back, 5 years ago, I was getting like, people in my community, right, the suburbs, like saying, hey, you should go on Fiverr, you should go on LinkedIn. And I quickly learned that our industry, like the creatives, they're all on Instagram, man. They're all on TikTok. And
It's
if you
all
really
right
want to
there.
connect, yeah, man. Like I haven't connected with like an actual creative man on LinkedIn probably since forever. Like there probably unprecedented, right? Like it's never happened. And what's funny is sometimes I do try to like throw that in there, like, you'll follow me on LinkedIn. And they're like, what are you talking about? So it's just reassuring to know that Instagram is the place to be. And you're right, man. You post a video or you see one of your favorite artists post something, DM them, copy and paste, send the same message to 5,000 people, whoever is associated, look for who's tagged. I like what you said, like send them to the cousin. You know what I mean? Like everybody is a potential lead. And the way, why we love creativity, there's no formula to it, right? One guy could see your video and be impressed by it. Another guy could look at it and not think anything of it, but you never know who it'll hit and who will pass it on to the next person, right? It's not like, you're applying to be a doctor and your grades aren't adding up. This is a subjective business, right? So you never know who's going to be inspired by something, right? So there's a lot of abundance. I'm happy that you have that mentality. That's very important for a hustler, right? The abundance mentality. And you have a growth mindset, right? It's not fixed like, oh, I just have to stay in whatever city I am at. Where are you, by the way, actually? Like, where are you situated?
So basically, I'm based in Milwaukee right now.
Okay.
And then throughout the fall, I pretty much was like back and forth to New York. So
Nice.
every month I go to New York. My sister lives in Flatbush, Brooklyn. So I pretty much go visit her every month. And
Nice.
just as much work with like No More Heroes. Have you heard of No More Heroes from Chicago?
I think, yeah, they sound familiar. Yeah. And New York is a great destination for content. So that's something that we'll talk about more in the podcast. So that must be a huge advantage for you, right?
Yeah. So basically right now I'm in Milwaukee, and my main client lives like 3 minutes away from me, a YouTuber, Tommy
nice.
G.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, so it's pretty much the perfect situation right now. And I think I'll go back to New York sometimes, but right now I'm pretty focused in on Tommy G.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you said for Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Milwaukee? Yeah. Is it, do you know Red Letter Media by any chance?
Red Letter Media.
Yeah. Have you heard of them? Mike
No, I've never heard.
Sabaska and Jim Bauman. They're YouTubers as well. A little bit
Really?
older, but they're my favorite because I'm primarily like a filmmaker, and that's all they do is like they review films. Like they have this like drab, like dry humor about it. Anyway, it's called Half in the Bag. It's a whole series, YouTube series, but they're based out of Milwaukee, and they always like kind of shit on Milwaukee, like it's like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. But I just thought if you knew about them or if you heard about them kind of thing, but I didn't know if it was like a local celebrity over there.
Oh, no, I haven't heard
Yeah.
of them, but I'll look into them.
Yeah, definitely. If you're into film, man, you'll have a hell of a time for sure. That's great, man. So it's good to know that you're versatile, like you're able to adapt to different cities, and you have that accessibility, right? Like you're not kind of pigeonholed to one section, because it also like serves as an inspiration, right? Would you say that New York City is more of a creative stimulation to Milwaukee, or would you beg to differ?
Yeah, it's like a whole other world, like when you're out there, you're kind of you kind of meet everybody within a year. So I moved here last year from Walworth, Wisconsin.
Right.
And that's like a little town with like 2,000 people. Like that was my hometown. Like my high school was 500 kids.
Oh,
like
crazy.
It was like there's like 100 kids in my class, 120. And
Really small.
Yeah. And then so yeah, going from there to New York is like so different, and there's like so many people out there, and it's so rich with just so many filmmakers and creators. It's so cool. But yeah,
that's awesome, man. And going back to like acquiring clients and like building the foundation, building the network, did you find it challenging to acquire those clients and build connections as you navigated your creative pursuits?
Yeah, when I started, I would send like video treatments to hotels. Like I just send it. Like,
okay.
I was like, hey, like a super detailed treatment. I'd be like, yo, I could do this for free. And like, I had like no work at the time. This was when I was like 17, 18, and
right.
I'm about to be 21 now. But
nice.
Basically, they'd all say no. And then I would just slowly just start making videos with my friends around this city. And then I started moving to like rappers. And that's when I just started DMing and, pretty much just focused on entertainment. And I just DM'd and tried to reach out, call. And it is difficult. And I'm sure you see how difficult it is too, but you just got to keep pushing and you'll finally hit that one nail and you're good.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. And like the more established you become, right? Like the more you put out work. That's just been my mentality. Like I used to get caught up in the whole like clients and figuring out how to get work. And that's why I describe myself as well as a self-starter. And I found familiarity with that. Speaking with you is that sometimes you got to just put out your own stuff. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the creative outlets that I pursued are my own business. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I created a clothing line, this podcast, I do artworks. I do it all because I'm trying to not wait for anyone, right? So like in between the next client, I'm putting out content that showcases my work, right? Like as a filmmaker as well. So I think that's so important. That's so critical as creatives. For me, it's like an itch, like I'm constantly obsessed. I can't sit still. So I'm just always looking for like the next way to stimulate that creativity. Would you say the same for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's more like, so like Tommy, he blew up in June.
Mhm.
And I saw his video. It was called the Kia Boy video, the Kia Boy
Oh,
documentary.
okay.
And he blew up, and I DM'd him right then and there. So it was like perfect timing, right time, right
Right.
place. And he reached back, and we were working on and off throughout the summer. And then, now we're a full time together. So
Tommy G McG, is that correct? Because I'm looking at his YouTube and he sounds so familiar. So I looked him up. That guy's a crazy story. Quitting his corporate job. I was reading about him. And then like he kind of pursued being a YouTuber, but he kind of always wanted it, but he never gave up. And it was like a 6-month endeavor. And then he kind of transitioned, right, from doing pranks to documentaries. Is that who I'm describing?
yeah, that's exactly him. He's a
That's
legend.
awesome.
He's super great to work with.
That's
like
great,
he's
man.
the best supporter, but also like the best critic too. So, like we're both we always want to make the best videos. So we don't yes man each other in a way that,
That's great, man. Yeah, that's the pinnacle of success, right? Like the stepping stones. I mean, he serves as a mentor, really, and that's what's gonna like shape you and define you into becoming better than the next creative, right? So I really find that valuable. That's great, and that you see it, and you're so young too, right? Like the fact that you have the maturity and the humility to kind of accept that, right? Let's be honest, like a lot of people, especially starting out, or like not that you're starting out, but at a young age, right? They might be taken back and say like, what do you mean you don't like my work? But you take it as like constructive, like how do I improve? How do I become better?
Yeah, no, I definitely do think too, like I'm like 0.1% into like my my career, you know what I mean? Like I still
Got it.
I got my first real like my Sony that I have right now that I shoot every day with like 2 years ago. So
Nice.
it's been like a 2-year endeavor, really.
That's awesome, man. And look how far you've come, right? Like that's what I mean about this business. It's like there's no formula. It's not like you have to do like 4 years of undergrad and then slap on another like MBA for 2 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just hustle mentality, man. That's it. That's great, man. So why is having a career in the arts more important to you than a profession that offers you like a financial stability or employment security? Like why do you like pursue something that's so unstable?
I think when you do exactly what you love, like the money will come, things will align, and if you just hustle and figure it out, like just keep throwing things at a wall and one thing will stick, and you stick with that and just keep pushing, it's going to work out for you. And say you have a job that has the health benefits and the salary and all that, like all the nice corporate job stuff.
Yeah, for sure, all the perks.
When you're 40 years old and you hate your job, you hate your life, you hate your wife, and then you hate your kids too, and then your kids hate you because you're
right.
Like you're gonna lose in life. I think just figure it out. Right now, we're in a time where we can do anything is possible. We have the internet that we could just reach out to whoever we want to learn from and whoever we want to work with, and that's a beautiful thing, bro. Like that's crazy.
100%, man. Yeah. I love that attitude, man. And it's so true. You have the same mentality as me. That's exactly what I would describe to people as why I pursue this. It's like, I don't want to be the guy that's 40, 50 years old, because it will come around fast. People don't think it will. That has this anger, this resentment that I didn't, have the balls to pursue something that I really wanted to. And then it carries out right into your family. Like how you said, you hate your kids. It's like you wouldn't actively hate your kids. It's just you're so bitter at the world that you never know how it might come across to people, right? And then you also become very like protective and coddled like your kids because you don't know what it's like to take a risk, right? So then you could like refrain them from like pursuing their dreams. But if you're the person that kind of saw it, even if you don't succeed, like people don't realize, it's kind of like you at least have that peace within yourself that you went for it, that 99% of people don't do, or even
Right.
have the privilege to, right? Like that's another thing I'm being grateful for as well. Like, let's be honest, there are those that refuse to pursue because they're scared, and there are those that can't because of just, circumstances they can't control.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation like us where it's like, hey, like we got a roof over our head, we have food to eat kind of thing. The only thing we got to now worry about is like working, then, hustle, like put the effort in, put the energy in, there's no excuse, right? So I love that. I love that mentality. That's really good. And that's gonna pay off, right? If it not already has.
Yeah, man, for
So
sure.
yeah, love that. So the clientele, speaking of, Tommy G and those guys, the clientele we acquire for our brands as creatives help us to determine the success we will be able to potentially achieve in business. And from viewing your creative portfolio on Instagram, I'm genuinely impressed with your considerable number of high quality content from music shows and events. And I saw that you were in New York for the viral Lil Uzi Vert music video, doing some street photography, and your name is in the credits of the music video. This was all like sent to me just before the podcast. Like Tyler, like really, really kind of like provided the context, like helped me out, because I remember watching that music video, but I didn't know exactly your involvement, right? And I was narrowing it down to like the shots, and he was really assisting me with that. And I mean that, man. Like I love the gritty run and gun feel. You know what I mean? That's something that I aspire to with my creativity. I want to know, like, how did you get in contact with a man named Oliver Cannon and Gibson Hazard? I believe that was the director, a very prominent one in the production field.
Yeah. So basically, this was November 2nd. I remember that night, dude. It was crazy. Craziest fucking story. So
Right.
basically, I'm sitting in my sister's apartment. It's like 11 p.m. I'm looking through Instagram stories, and I see Gibson Hazards, and it says room in Crosby Street, 12 a.m. And then it has the Just Wanna Rock song by Lil Uzi.
Right.
And I'm like, there's something going on. There's something happening.
Yeah.
I just grabbed my bag. So I think like luck comes when, you have opportunity and preparation together. So there's an
100%.
opportunity.
Yeah.
I had my bag ready.
Yeah.
I had all my SD cards ready, cleared for like, batteries charged, everything packed.
Ready
I
to
grabbed
go.
my bag,
Yeah.
no thing. I run out the door. I tell my sister, yo, this is happening. I got to go. She's like, what the hell? It's 12:30 p.m. at night. You're going to get shot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck, let's go. So I go down there. I run to the train. The train is down. It says like 30-minute wait. I'm like, fuck, yeah, I'm going to be late for this. So I run back up, get a lift. We go straight there. There's already a huge crowd of kids just like everywhere on this corner street. And then next thing we know, we're looking down Crosby Street, and we see like these big lights, and it's that truck in the video.
Right.
Everybody just starts charging, and I'm like, oh, I'm filming. I'm ready to go filming. And we run, we film. The whole thing happens. Kai Cenat comes out, which is another YouTuber. And so when it ended, I was kind of hanging around, and I saw a producer, and he saw me filming, and I was like, or no, he came up to me, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna need that footage. And then I'm like, all right, bet. And then I got his number, and then I looked at everybody's story that night. So I looked at Oliver Cannon's story, which is the creative director in that, and then Gibson Hazard's story. And they all put the same email to send like footage to. So right when I got home, I sent it.
Break down the music video for me for Lil Uzi. Like, what was going on? Like, was there a permit for that street, or did they just open it up for a free for all? Like, if I was there with a camera, could I shoot and just send it to that email when I was done? How did it go? Like, what was the creative process like?
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. So
crazy.
Who got footage? Anybody who got footage sent it. So like this kid that was a vlogger, who's right next to me, we were just talking.
Right.
His foot got in it too. And pretty much what they did is they just got NYPD to block off like this block.
And I saw that. I thought at first like, oh, this is staged, and then you actually they blocked out the phases. And that's when I quickly realized, wow, like this actually happened in real time. Like they're freaking out. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to shut it down.
Yeah, and he ended up getting there at 1 a.m., not 12 a.m. too.
Oh, so that's how the crowd was nice and like at its height, right? Like
huge.
Yeah.
Drone. They had Garrett Bruce, which is a great photographer, walking around, getting ready for the shots. When I saw him, I knew it was about to come on too, because you could see his earpiece.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that was a good experience.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's one of the highlights of your career so far, right? Like that's something that you slap on the resume. That's how I was like, introduced more to your work and try to understand like who is this guy? You know, like what's he all about? Do you prefer capturing your clients on like digital or 35mm cameras? The reason why I asked that is I see some of your content like you captured on film. And I'm just curious, like if you're finicky about that.
No, I'm more digital. I think I've done like some Fuji film type of things, but
Nice.
I'm super digital, and I'm trying to get like, I'm trying to level up to like this A7S3.
Oh,
But
nice.
I want to get.
Yeah, I shoot on this A7 III right now. Yeah,
How's that?
it's nice, man. It's it's my livelihood. You know what I mean? Like it's the backbone of the business. I'm looking to upgrade eventually. Not sure what exactly. Maybe a Black Magic, but it does the job. You know what I mean? Like I can't complain. I've had it since 2018, and I know they came out with the A7 IV, and there's been some improvements. But yeah, like I have no issues. It's just a matter of who's behind the camera. You know what I mean? Like just executing the vision.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, like, again, I was introducing myself more as I'm primarily more of a writer director, like a filmmaker. So for me, like it's very important to get those like cinematic shots. And so far so good, right? Like it's been proven to be successful because I've shot in a lot of short films that have been recognized at film festivals, and they've been well received by the industry and the audience alike. So, you know, it's done its part. But it can also serve as like a behind the scenes vlog kind of camera. But again, that's what I mean, is like it all depends on like who's behind the camera. So yeah, for sure, man. You would know that. Right.
I agree.
Man. So as creative individuals who have the fortune of pursuing our passions, like we discussed before, we are sometimes affected by the negativity, criticism, or even lack of recognition for our works and accomplishments in this often lonely artistic journey. How do you handle the negative experiences or discouraging moments when working toward your craft?
You just got to keep being like, okay, what's next? You know, you got to always ask yourself, what's next on the table? You know, this happened, but move on to the next thing. And that's what makes the wins later on taste so much sweeter, because, you know, it didn't always go so well, you know, every single shoot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think it's always be like, okay, this happened. All right, what's going on tomorrow? What are we going to do next? You know what I mean? So I guess always have a positive mindset.
Yeah, no, I love that optimism, right? You're kind of guy, that's what you strike me as, is, you know, the abundance mentality, the growth mindset. You're not going to settle for a failure or a bad day, right? Because you're always going to have an opportunity then tomorrow. And that's what I meant by like creativity being a risk. Is a lot of creatives get caught up in their head because they don't understand it's not always, it never is actually perfect, period. Because I could look back at my work and I'm like, wow, this should have been better or different, or I should have done this, you know, and I could be the most established, recognized, famous director, and I'm still going to have issues. That's just who I am. That's how all of us are. But the important thing is to be mindful of that there's always room for improvement, and there's always another day to create, right? And that optimism will serve you well. Because we get sometimes bogged down, you know what I mean? That's why I brought up this question, as I'm curious as a creative, like, does it get to you? I'm guilty of it. It gets to me sometimes. There are some times where I don't even have the inspiration to look at my you know, footage, or, you know, pull up a photograph I want to edit. But you know, you have to have that discipline, what you say. Like, are there days where you find like, I don't want to do it, but you just still do it? You push yourself?
Yeah, I think, you know, motivation is always great, but yeah, you do have to have that discipline to,
you know what I mean, man? Like, you're not always, that's why I wanted to ask, like, if I can re-clarify, like, you don't probably always feel motivated. And when you don't, like, you probably have to have that discipline, correct?
Yeah, you need that discipline to go in there. And I think that's what sets you apart from the regular.
What advice would you give to those who desire to make a name for themselves in the industry, yet struggle with ignoring the criticism of others?
Always make something that someone enjoys to watch. I think that's a very rewarding thing. You know, you're creating something that someone gets to watch and sit down and enjoy. And also make something that, I don't know, I guess just always make something that you're proud of. I'm a perfectionist, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes that fucks me up to
of course, that's what I was trying to make a point of before, right? It's like we get in our heads.
Fucks me up to not put out as many things as possible, and rather than put out good things, you know, more slowly on my own.
Right.
But yeah, man, it definitely, yeah.
I don't know if it's age or like, you know what I mean? Like, cause I'm 28, so I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm saying I was the same way as at your age, and I still am. But what I mean is, cause you were commending me on like the podcast reels or like the shorts earlier. And I was very particular about like posting things, right? I was like, oh, like it has to be a certain way. I have to be in the mood. I have to be motivated, this, and that. And then it's like I just came across Gary Vee's content because like he inspires me, and he said something like, quantity over quality when it comes to the content game, right? Like marketing yourself.
Right.
And at first I was like, what are you talking about? Like you have to have quality. But what he's arguing is that like when you get caught up in the minor details, that's when you lose, right? That's when you overthink. That's when you become slow and ultimately lose, I should say. And that's when I kind of understood where I want to win. I'm very competitive. And it's like, you know what? Put it out. Just put it out. Obviously do your best work. Like the reels I put, I'm happy with. But again, if I, would take the time and like really like edit it or treat it like, a bigger piece of project, none of the reels would be put out, and no one would be able to like see my content or see the guests that I interview or see really like the quality of this podcast. So that to me is the offering to the world, right? It's like, I want to put out as much content as I can, put my name out there because I want people to understand like where I'm coming from. And I want to provide value as much as I can as well, right? Like this podcast, like who am I to take it away from, the audience for my own ego? You know what I mean? It's like, what if someone listening to this podcast after listening to you, Miguel, is inspired and said, you know what, I'm going to like message the first 100 people I see on Instagram that are creatives, or I'm going to message my hero because Miguel did that. Like, what I mean is that it's possible because this podcast is an emulation of exactly how I would like learn from my heroes. Like I would listen to Tarantino on Howard Stern, and he would say things that I implement in my career now. So I think it's possible that to be inspired by those that we listen to and consuming the right content can find for a very prosperous future.
For sure. I think podcasts they give you an access to the, say in the 90s, MTV would have like their interviews that were way more short and cut up. Like podcasts are so authentic, and it's just, you're conversating. So if you listen to your favorite director, your favorite creator, your favorite, whatever it is, you get to learn from them and kind of pick up their story. Be like, you know what, he did this and this and this, but also never compare, but also be like, you know what, like you can do it too in a way. Like they did these things, you can do them as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, man. And like, funny thing about the podcast too, it's like, this is what I mean by like having a creative outlet, like and staying curious. Like for me as a filmmaker, I was only making short films at one time. And I'm like, how do I get my name out there? Like, how do I create content? Like follow that strategy, like Gary Vee's, kind of like idolizing. And I said, well, I love to talk and I love to learn more about people. Again, staying curious. What if I had a podcast? You know what I mean? What if I had a platform and I didn't really know the whereabouts, the ins and outs, how to approach it? People had studios, people had the fancy equipment. And I said, what's convenient? Because I like working smart. It's like, what's convenient, what's efficient, what's fast? And Zoom came along in the pandemic. And now I have the opportunity to speak with you, who's in Milwaukee, and I don't have to fly you in and have a podcast, right? We get the information, we get the content across, and people get the message, man. People get value from it. So I'm so happy that you revere the podcast and all its intentions.
Hell yeah, man.
Thank you, sir.
If you don't mind me asking, like, what do you do?
Yeah, for sure.
Day-to-day work? Like, do you usually just do like creating on the internet, or do you, have like a other gig? Because I know you're a filmmaker, writer.
Yeah. So thank you for asking, actually. So I started a production company, 94 Productions, back around when the pandemic first started in 2020, early 2020. And I've done a lot of like social media video editing content. Like I guess that's what you would call my bread and butter for paid gigs. And I would do like the odd client work locally, like for Toronto artists and things like that. But again, primarily my biggest focus, and it still is, because that's just my childhood dream, is to be a writer director. Has been making short films, and I'm looking to expand that into features. It's just a question of like funding and finding budgeting. So it's a grind, and it's a hustle in its own way for sure. But I was introduced to this world of videography and, creatives like Tyler and Michael Gilbert, because I also wanted to expand my portfolio. So I started doing vlog work for influencers and content creators. And that's how we kind of crossed paths. And then through the podcast, again, this podcast is as old as the production company. I basically used it as a tool to network. And yeah, so essentially it's like a bit of everything. Anything that I can be creative and tell a story. But if you really want to know, yeah, like being a filmmaker, being a film director is like my end goal. And that's something that I'm continuing to pursue. Been getting the recognition that I'm happy to receive. But yeah, it's definitely a process, as you know, right? It's a hustle. As long as I'm creatively stimulated, that's all I can ask for.
For sure, man.
Yeah. Anyway, man, well, it was such a pleasure speaking to you on the podcast, getting to know you about your journey, your experiences. It's always so insightful, and I should say inspiring, because again, like, you're 21. I remember when I was 21, not that I'm far away from you in age, but at the same time, it's like, wow, like I'm continuing to be impressed by these young individuals on social media and how much they're involved in the business at such a young age, right? So keep going, man, keep killing it. Looking forward to the content you're putting out with your new client and all the other projects coming your way.
For sure, man. Appreciate it, bro.
100%. Well, thank you again, Miguel Sierra, for coming onto the podcast. Thank you again, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk soon.